without further ado, let me go ahead and share my screen here. And there's a couple of key things that I want you to pay attention to here as we go through the demo. I am going to bring this full circle. If you look at the top left, what we call tile in this alert dashboard that I've got here, you can see some of the alerts that we already have active in the system. And so as we talk about self-healing, again, working from a real world example, there's a few common scenarios that we come across at Utelogy. One is a display being off when it should be on. I know that sounds super basic and simple, but it's very much a truth in our world. Another is a display being on the wrong input, right? So in today's modern age, with the advent of Teams and Zoom room systems, it's not uncommon for these room designs to be much more simplistic, like you see here, where you've got a single device like a Poly or a Neat or a Cisco, Logi endpoint, something of that nature, and that's the only device connected to that display. So having the display change to any other input besides HDMI input 1 or whatever input that device is connected to could, to a user in the room, be very problematic. It could, for all intents and purposes, be completely broken, all because the display is on the wrong input. Volume levels being too low, or something being muted or unmuted when it should be the opposite. Those are generally the four most common scenarios that we run into. The first things first, let's go ahead and turn the display on here. So I've gone ahead and issued the power on command. You can actually see that's happened down in the bottom here. And if I go over here fast enough, which I did luckily, we can see that the display powered on. We can see now that the LED in the bottom right-hand corner is blue, in fact, indicating it's on. It's got a valid image. You can see there's the splash screen, if you will, of the X30 running in zoom mode, and everything looks to be good as it should be. So if once again I bring this back out of frame and using Tectool in the cloud, if I were to emulate a user in the room manipulating those display controls and maybe changing it to the wrong input right here, I can go ahead, I can select HDMI 2, and if I'm fast enough, which I was, there you can see the display switching away. It's now changing to that HDMI 2 input, but oddly enough, it looks like it's going back to 1. And it did. We're back to HDMI input 1. Why did that happen? Well, it happened intentionally. It happened because we wanted it to, right? It happened because we told it to through a conditional logic statement. And, the basis or kind of foundation of self-healing is what we call at Utelogy a trigger or a conditional logic statement. The one in this room is rather simple and straightforward. And actually, if I just bring up, I'll go ahead and I'll make this full screen, and I'll also share with you this here. But in Utelogy, we have this concept of triggers. Again, conditional statements, if-then statements, if you will. And here we've made a rather simple one. We've said, okay, if the display is our target device, if the display's source or input is not equal to HDMI, and we do this, I put in a 3-second timer for demonstration purposes purely, but this could be 0 seconds. It could happen immediately where you change it back, or it could happen after a longer duration. We say, okay, what do we want to happen? And in this instance, obviously, it's pretty straightforward. If we detect the display is not on HDMI input 1, we want to go ahead and set it back, which is our first step here. But you'll also observe that I have a couple of additional steps as well. So I've got one where I'm setting an alert. I'm doing a little bit of a delay, and then I'm actually going ahead and clearing that alert. The reason that I do all of that is because if I now go back to UManage, and if I go back to the dashboards where we all started today, and if I return to the alert dashboard, if I've done my job properly, we should see a new alert here, and in fact, we do. We see an alert of self-heal display source. Remember, when we started this, there was only 4 alerts. There's now a 5th, and we can see that. And so it really completes that picture for the customer, right? Because not only have we put in these logic statements, these self-heals, if you will, or the self-heal to say if the display's input is not on the right one, then change it back. So we've detected a problem. We've automatically resolved the issue without any type of manual human intervention. And most importantly, probably more than anything else, is that we've also reported on it, right? We have the empirical data to say what happened, when it happened, and how many times that event has occurred. So, as we equate this to time and most likely money, we have, again, a comprehensive picture that we can paint here.